Hello everyone, after a 2-week break we are back for some racing. Today we're in RaceRoom for the BMW M235i Cup at Laguna Seca. And we're also going to be racing complete with a new wheel and pedals. The trusty Logitech G920 has served me well during my first year of sim racing, but I've now upgraded. So we're going to get the benefit of load cell pedals, the Thrustmaster T-LCMs, along with the Thrustmaster TX wheelbase, kindly supplied to me by my good friend Ben at Broca Sim Racing. If you haven't subscribed to his channel yet, please do check it out. There's loads of great content on there. But as for today's race, we're going to be starting on the front row. A fantastic qualifying session. We managed to clock a 1:35 flat, just not quite quick enough to get pole position. Phil Lawson grabbed that in the final 30 seconds of qualifying. But it's going to be a really close race here because I've got my two SCB colleagues, Julian Garcia and Scott Warner, as well as Colin Pearson, all within 0.4 of a second. So the top 5 is going to be a real battle at Laguna Seca. Let's get over to the grid and see how we get on. And the lights go green, and we've actually made a really decent start there. We're already alongside Lawson, and I'm a little bit worried he's going to squeeze me against the wall, but he doesn't. He gives me just about enough room, but we're side by side with Lawson now, and we're going to have the inside coming into T1. We'll take the tight line. We'll hug that inside curb. Lawson on the outside has got about a half a car length advantage now. He's going to have a bigger advantage at this upcoming right-hander, and he's got a faster exit, so Lawson has taken the lead of this race. Behind me, Julian Garcia is having a look up the inside of Colin Pearson, but he's not been able to get the pass done, so it's Colin Pearson in 3rd, Julian Garcia in 4th, and James Lloyd in 5th. Right behind Lloyd is Scott Warner, so that's 3 SCB drivers in the top 6, 4 if you include Phil Lawson, because Phil has driven in a couple of our series, so a really encouraging start for all the SCB drivers in this race. And if you cast your eyes over to the leaderboard, top left of the screen, you'll see there's some really big ratings in the top 6. So if we can hold our position amongst these guys, it's going to do our rating the world of good. And as with any race at Laguna Seca, the first lap approach to the corkscrew is always a nervous one. Thankfully, we've got a bit of space to get through safely. It looks like Colin Pearson behind might have got a bit untidy on exit. That's given Julian Garcia the chance to go around the outside. Has Garcia done enough to take that 3rd position? It doesn't look like it. Pearson wrestles it back. That little tussle between Pearson and Garcia has given me a little bit of breathing room behind, so now we can concentrate on chasing Lawson through the final turn. I run it in just a little bit hot. That might cost me some speed on exit, and as we cross the line to finish lap 1, it's Lawson ahead by 0.9 of a second. Although we have picked up a purple lap, so can we keep up with him? So with lap 1 out the way, let's go back and check out a replay at the start. We got away really well, almost straight away. We were alongside Lawson. There was only a little bit of room between Lawson's BMW and that concrete wall on the inside, but we managed to hold it, and we had a good inside position here coming into T1. Just not quite aggressive enough to make a pass though. And for Lawson, being on the outside at this point really isn't a problem, because that corner is sweeping enough for you to carry your speed and get a better line for this right-hander. That's exactly what Lawson did, and he takes the lead of this race, as we see behind Garcia having a sniff at Pearson. Approaching the corkscrew now, we're watching Julian Garcia. He's sat behind me and Pearson, but look how untidy Pearson is on exit there. He gets a bit squirrely. That opens the door for Garcia to go around the outside through Rainy Curve. At this point, he's got the pass stuck, but he just clips the gravel and has to give the position back. We're rejoining the live action halfway through lap 2, and I asked the question, did I have the pace to keep up with Phil Lawson? Well, the answer at the moment is yes, and in fact, we're even closing in on him. That gap now is down to 0.6 of a second. In the rearview mirror, you can see that Colin Pearson is still in 3rd. He's 0.7 behind, so he's not going anywhere. Julian Garcia is a little bit further back in 4th, and Scott Warner now is up to 5th, so the SCB boys are all in the top 5 as we hit the corkscrew for the 2nd time. Can we make any more inroads onto Lawson ahead? And shifting down to 3rd there, felt a little bit messy. Maybe that's a corner, best taken in 4th gear, but for now we're going to hit the final turn, still within striking distance of Phil Lawson. So we've certainly got the pace to stick with Lawson here, but whether we've got that extra bit of grunt needed to close down that final 0.6, 0.7 of a second, I'm not so sure. And we've lost the purple lap as well. That's gone to Colin Pearson in third. And look at Pearson. He's coming in way too hot into T1, and my heart was in my mouth for a moment there. I thought there was going to be contact. He's managed to keep it on track, but he ran out really wide. So now Pearson's more than a second back. That's a bit of breathing room again. And we're right behind Lawson now. This is the closest we've been to him yet. We're on lap 3. Are we going to get close enough to try and make a move? 0.4 of a second is the gap now. We've just picked up a purple first sector. And half a gap has opened up on the inside into this left-hander. We did think about making a move, but there just wasn't quite enough room to get it done safely. Lawson holds on to the lead, but we're applying all kinds of pressure now. And just taking a quick glance at the leaderboard, it looks like we've lost Julian Garcia. He's slipped all the way down to 13th, so there must have been some sort of incident there. But let's keep our eye on Colin Pearson, because again, he's going to come in really hot into the corkscrew. And for the second time in a lap, there's very nearly contact. Thankfully, Pearson managed to avoid us there. Oh, and we get our line all wrong coming through the rainy curve, clipping that sausage curb on the inside. That's going to cost us a tenth or two, and just like that, we see Lawson slip away. And exiting the final turn, that lead now is 1 second, so it's doubled over the course of the final few turns of that lap. We said earlier that we'd lost Garcia, and that's promoted Scott Warner up to 4th. Let's go back and check out the replay to see what happened. Well, before we lost Julian, we actually lost James Lloyd. We're riding on board with Julian, and that's Lloyd making a move up the inside. He's in 5th, trying to take 4th. You saw a little bit of contact. Lloyd saved it, but then there's more contact with the cars behind, and Lloyd spins out. That promoted Scott Warner up to 5th behind Garcia. There's Warner right on Garcia's tail now. Garcia moves to the inside to defend, but on the exit of T1, he just gives it a little bit too much gas. We'll see the rear step out, and Julian goes into the sand. Back to the live action now. We're on lap 4, and Lawson still has that 1 second lead. We're holding on to him just about here. We've managed to stop him from extending that lead even further, although we do run a little bit wide and clip the gravel there. That'll give him a couple of tenths, and it'll also invite a challenge from Pearson behind. So at this point of the race, I'm starting to think that the win might be just a bit beyond me. We're not quite fast enough to close that gap on Lawson, and we're going to come under a real challenge from Pearson here. And as you can see from the leaderboard, Pearson still has the purple lap, so he is the fastest driver in this race. And that means we're going to have our work cut out if we're going to hold on to this second position. Take a look at Pearson in the rearview mirror. He's certainly faster into the corners, but I'm faster out of them, and that's what's keeping us ahead at the moment. We're going to see it again at the final turn. Look how much he closes in right on my tail there, but we're just able to get out a little bit quicker and regain the advantage. But we're only 0.4 of a second over Pearson now, so it's really close. And it looks like Phil Lawson is benefiting from the clear track, because he's just put the fastest lap in at 1:34.7, so a good 3/10 faster than my qualifying time. Lawson is finding his feet here, but just as he's getting into a rhythm, we may have a wild card. Back markers. We saw the white flags come out to warn us of slow cars ahead, and we saw 2 cars exiting pit lane. It looks like Lawson's got around the first of them, and I'm going to be on his tail very, very shortly now, so let's hope that the servant of God is feeling in a charitable mood, because I need to get around as quickly as possible here. This could be the moment that Lawson breaks away. But look at the rearview mirror. Pearson comes in really hot again, and this time there's contact. He runs into the back of my car, into that left-hander. We're okay though, no incident points. But we do really need to get around this back marker, and hopefully he'll let us do it before we get to the corkscrew. The last thing I want to do is go into the corkscrew too wide with a lap driver. However, thankfully he's let us through safely. But will Pearson get through before the corkscrew? He hasn't, and in fact we might have lost Pearson. We have. He's out of the race. So Scott Warner is promoted up to 3rd. What's happened there? Well, judging by the replay, it looks like Pearson has become the latest in a long line of victims to fall foul of the sausage curb of doom at Laguna Seca. Right here, many a race has been ended early by that suspension killer, and that's exactly what's happened here to Colin Pearson, who crashes out of 3rd place. to the live action. We've got about 6 minutes of the race to go, and we're starting to feel a little bit lonely because Lawson has opened up a 2.1 second lead. However, he is having to deal with a particularly stubborn back marker. Paul Whiteley is proving exceptionally difficult to get past, and that's slowing Lawson down. So this is a glimmer of hope for me here. We close right in on the approach to the corkscrew. We've gained about half a second just in the space of a couple of corners as Lawson still can't find a way through Whiteley. I'm wondering if Lawson might make a move up the inside to get the pass done into the final corner, but no, he's thought better of it. He's probably going to wait until the long start and finish straight. Hopefully Whiteley will stand aside. Yes, he has done, so he's letting Lawson through. And we've gained a chunk of time on him. The gap is now 1.5 seconds, so it's still quite a big gap. And of course, we saw how difficult Lawson found it to get by Whiteley. Now we're going to have the same problem. Is Whiteley going to let us through, or are we going to have to do it the hard way? We're going to find out in this next lap because we're right on Whiteley's tail now. And out front, we just know that Lawson is going to take full advantage of that clear track. He wants to break away as quickly as he can here. And to be fair to Whiteley, he's actually running at a fairly decent pace here. He's only got a rating of 1.39k, but he's certainly got some pace. I was expected to have reeled him in by now, but that is not the case. We're still half a second behind him. Looking at the leaderboard, I can see that he's already made a pit stop, so maybe he would have been among the front runners. Perhaps he picked up a drive-through or something like that earlier in the race. But yeah, I don't think we're going to get around him before the corkscrew. And in front of him, Lawson is still 1.5 seconds ahead, so that gap isn't growing. We're clearly still keeping touch with Lawson here, but it's imperative that we get around Whiteley as quickly as possible. We're closing in now. We were clearly faster on the exit of the corkscrew, and we're clearly faster through the Rady curve as well, but there's just no room. There's no way through, and now we're having to get off the gas. This is frustrating. And yeah, look at that gap to Lawson. It's 2.2 seconds now. So this might have been the moment where our slim chances of a race victory disappeared. This was the point on the last lap where Whiteley stepped aside to let Lawson through. It doesn't look like he's going to do the same. Oh yes, he is. Thankfully we're going to get by Whiteley and start a pursuit again of Lawson. But yeah, the gap now 2.2 seconds. Yeah, Whiteley had really impressive pace for a back marker, so I went back to the replay to see what happened to him in the early stages of the race, and it looks like he became another victim of that sausage curb. He's joining Colin Pearson in the club. This is the very first lap, and there is the contact. It's not quite the same terminal damage that put Pearson out of the race, but you can see that that BMW is not handling the way it should, and it's going to weave all over the place on the entrance into the corkscrew. So yeah, Whiteley was forced to pit for repairs at the end of the first lap. And ultimately that did prove to be the moment that I lost touch with Phil Lawson. We're on to the last lap now, and as you can see, Lawson's advantage is up to 3 seconds. Behind me in third, Scott Warner is 4 seconds behind. Now Scott had troubles of his own during the race. He was really put under pressure in the early stages by Ugolini, and there was a lot of contact. Scott was getting constant taps from behind. We're watching highlights in the TV cam. Here's another instance of a little tap into the final turn. And Scott was having to dig deep to hold his concentration with contact at almost every turn. We're going to fast forward the highlights in the TV cam on the approach to the corkscrew. Again, there's a little bit more contact there, but as we reach the corkscrew, Ugolini's just going to push it a little bit too hard. We're going to see him lose grip as he drops down the hill, and that gives Warner some much needed breathing space to concentrate on getting his lap times down and close the gap on me in second. So yeah, back to the live action, and we're just going to finish the race. No chance of a win in the end. Phil Lawson just had a little bit too much pace for me. It was really encouraging in the early stages. The first 4 or 5 minutes of this race, we not only kept touch with Lawson, but we challenged him, and that's showing signs that we're making real progress with our racing. Ultimately though, Lawson had a bit too much class for us. He took the convincing win with me in second, and Scott Warner rounded off the podium in third. Let's check out the classified results. And yeah, just from a quick glance of our best laps, we can see that I just didn't quite have the pace to match Lawson. His fastest lap of 1:34.7 was 3/10 faster than mine. My time, fairly identical to my qualifying time. But look at Warner's times in third as well. Really impressive stuff at 1:34.8. And a big shout out to Julian Garcia too, who recovered from that spin in the early stages to come back and finish in 8th place. Well, that's it from Laguna Seca. If you've enjoyed the video, please do leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done already. Thanks for watching, guys. See you soon.